All right, Rami La Vie podcast episode. I don't know what episode, but it's Wednesday, April 17th. And we have a matchup for the first round of the playoffs for the New York Knicks. It's finalized. We know who the Knicks are getting. We're getting the Philadelphia 76ers after a battle that in some ways had me feeling really good about the Knicks' chances of beating them, and in some ways had me feeling really bad. Now the narratives, and I've stayed firm on this the whole time, but I'm now certain of this. The narratives of the Knicks should be scared, boo-hoo. Okay, I'm not scared. That's straight out. Is it going to be a tough series? Maybe. It's the NBA playoffs. You're going to have to beat the best teams at some point if you want to go where this Knicks team wants to go. We're not trying to win a round. We're not trying to win 2 rounds. We're trying to go to the conference finals at least. And I think this team has a legitimate chance to go all the way. So, of course, there are going to be some tough teams along that way. That's how it works. Now, the narrative that says we should be scared, the people saying that are the same people. And I heard this insanity from Bill Simmons on his podcast. He said, I really wanted to put Jalen Brunson first team, but the thought of not having Jason Tatum first team didn't sit right with me. Bill, let me ask you this question. Who had the better season, Jalen Brunson or Jason Tatum? The answer is Jalen Brunson. So if we're taking the name out of it and you're looking at it for what it is, the facts only, who had the better season? Who was a first team All-NBA? Jalen Brunson is by far, but the same people who are saying, yeah, just it doesn't feel right because it's Jalen Brunson. He doesn't have the sexy name like Jason Tatum, who didn't have as good a season. And just quite honestly wasn't as valuable to his team only because his team didn't need him to be as valuable because he plays on a team with Jaylen Brown and with Kristaps Porzingis and with Jrue Holiday and all those guys, right? So it makes sense. Whereas Jalen Brunson played on a team that was injured, that dealt with adversity, and he was incredible throughout the season, and he carried the team to a 50-win 2 seed. It just makes sense. It's logical. But those same people are the people who are now saying, oh, they should be scared. I'm scared of Philadelphia. I'm scared of the Heat culture, blah, blah, blah. As I'm watching this game, look, I was scared of Kyle Lowry in this game, and I'm scared of him in this series. I'll tell you that right now, because he's a Heat type player. He's dirty. He's crafty. He's going to commit fouls and get away with them a lot of times. He's going to get calls to go his way because he's going to finagle the refs and yell at them. He's a dirty, gross player who scares me in a series like this. Look, Nick Batum, he just turned into, he's, in hockey, we have this phrase 16 game players. He's a 16 game player. I get it. And it's funny. I made Nick Batum the thumbnail. I didn't even know that he went off in that game because when I made the thumbnails about halftime, I said I was going to give whichever. I made 2 thumbnails. I made one for the Heat, one for the Sixers. And I said, whichever thumbnail I don't use, I'll give it to a less fortunate country that is in need of thumbnails. Psst. Anyway, get it? That's what happens with the Super Bowl merch. I just explained the joke. Damn it. All right. Like the team, they walk around with like San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl champion t-shirts every year because the Niners lose the Super Bowl every year. All right. Explain the joke twice now. Look, Joel Embiid scares me, but he didn't look healthy in this game. I'll be honest. And that scares me almost even more, right? Joel Embiid, not healthy at all. Still, the Sixers managed to win this game and he made some huge plays down the stretch. I don't know if he can hold up during a series. Like, I don't think he's going to get more healthy as the playoffs go on. I don't think he's going to get more healthy as the series goes on. And without Embiid, I'm not really afraid of them. They hit some big shots outside of Embiid. But even that last play, if there was a second and a half on the clock, Embiid and Maxey both going for the ball at the same time would have given the ball back to the Heat down 1. Like, there were so many plays in this game that were sloppy. The fact that they got down as big as they got and they showed resiliency, and that's a Knicks type win, right? You get down early, you show the resiliency to come back. That's kind of what we fell in love with the Knicks, is what we talk about. And I'll talk about it on Friday when I do my preview of the game. I'm kind of going to tell you about some of the concerns maybe that I have for the Knicks in the playoffs. And we'll talk about that, other teams turning it up to get to the next level. But in this game, they were down 14. It felt like they were down 1 million. They couldn't do anything offensively. They couldn't figure out how to play against a zone defense. And Nick Nurse is a great coach, but for some reason, they couldn't figure out how to solve a zone. I mean, Tom Thibodeau's got to be watching that, laughing, like, oh, let's play zone. You know what I mean? The beginning of the game, I get it. Embiid and Jimmy Butler both foul baiting back and forth. JJ Redick said it right. And by the way, speaking of the broadcast team, there were times, and I counted this multiple times, where there's minutes at a time, multiple possessions at a time, where Mike Breen is talking, doing play-by-play and analysis, and he keeps pausing, waiting to give someone an opportunity to step in, say something. Go ahead, Doris. Go ahead, JJ. And they say nothing. And then he started getting to the point where he was going, JJ, what do you think of this? Doris, what do you think of this? And it got to the point where one time he said, JJ, what do you think of this? And Doris started talking. Like, that's when she decided to start talking. This is not a knock on JJ. This is not a knock on Doris. This is more of a knock on ESPN. They never worked together, this trio. And you're now putting them together. It was last minute, obviously, because what happened with Doc Rivers. But you broke up one of the best broadcast teams, in my opinion, the best broadcast team in all of sports when it comes to play-by-play and analysis together, right? You have with Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson and obviously Mike Breen. You had the three of them. You had something good going, and you broke it up for God knows what reason. And you went into the season with no plan B, and your plan B fell apart because obviously, and you could tell by listening to the broadcast, Doc Rivers wanted to continue to coach. He was just angling for a coaching job that entire time that he was on broadcaster. Anyway, this is a total side rant. But point is, Mike Breen, I feel bad for you. I'm sorry for you. There was one point where they had their planned takes, because sometimes they do that in a break. They have a highlight package, and the producers say, hey, here's the highlight we're going to show coming out. Here's, you guys have a little back and forth. So Doris and JJ had a back and forth after like the planned take that they had. And then it went right back to Mike Breen, and they didn't talk again until the next TV commercial. It was just Mike Breen took it all the way until the next TV commercial, which was like 2.5 minutes later. So it's a mess, that broadcast booth. So it's kind of interesting. It's better than anything else in the NBA. It's actually crazy. I think right now the best is Brian Anderson and Stan Van Gundy, probably, when you're talking about national broadcast teams, because Reggie Miller was hard to listen to last night also. And he's with Kevin Harlan, who's incredible, but he's hard to listen to when he's with Reggie Miller. Back to the game itself. I just mentioned the foul baiting at the beginning. That's going to drive me insane. And if Jalen Brunson is not getting the calls, and he's a little guy and he's getting hit, but this giant Joel Embiid is getting these ticky-tack calls where he's clearly initiating the contact. He's clearly initiating the contact and then flopping the other direction to get fouls. It's going to drive Knicks fans insane. I know it already. I'm not saying this is going to be an easy series for the New York Knicks, but the fact that they were so bad in the first half, the fact that at times it was such a struggle, and Miami, like the beginning of this game, I was like, I wish I was playing the Sixers, but the whole time in my head, I'm telling myself, no, I'd rather play the Heat. The Heat are not as good. The Heat go through stretches where they just can't score. And the Sixers having a hard time closing it out at the end gave me even more confidence. Like, I would have been confident coming out of that game playing either one of these teams. This is the type of style the Knicks are going to play. The style we saw tonight, muck it up, 105, 104 final, low scoring, defense, poor shooting. That's the type of style of game the Knicks have been winning all year for 2 years now. So I'm confident. I like the Knicks in those types of games more than I like the Sixers in those types of games. You put the Sixers in a pressure-packed situation, Joel Embiid, who hasn't performed in the playoffs, and now you add on, he's not fully healthy. He's clearly not fully healthy. And I'll take my chances with it. I still like the Knicks, but Miami, God, that would have been fun to play them. I'm glad we're not getting Eric Spoelstra. That's cool. And I'm also kind of glad that Boston now has to contend with Miami, because I think it's a worse matchup for Boston. Although the way Miami looked tonight, I'm not even sure they could beat Chicago. Like, depending on Jimmy Butler's health, and maybe that was the X factor, like maybe Miami just runs away with this game if Jimmy Butler's healthy. I don't know. But my point is that it seems like neither of these teams were up for the challenge tonight. And Philly was almost lucky to get away with a win. And by the way, the Philadelphia crowd, if they start getting on their players like that and start booing, I'm not one of these guys who says you should lift your players up and you have to cheer for them like Steve Cohen said we should do for Francisco Lindor. I don't buy into that. But in the first half, getting booed off the floor the way they did, the boos started raining early. The second Miami went on a run in the first quarter, the boos started coming down in Philly. Like, that can't feel good. I don't think that's good. That's not a good home court advantage. The loudest cheer at one point was for Chicken. That was the loudest cheer to that point in the game, was when Miami missed 2 free throws and Philadelphia got free chicken. So, look, it's going to be a tough matchup because of Embiid. Embiid is that guy. He's really, really good. I get it. But I still trust the Knicks in this series. From what I saw tonight, I trust the Knicks in 7 games against the Sixers. It might take 6. It might take 7. But I like the Knicks odds. I'm sticking with the Knicks. I do think the Sixers will be favored in this series. I'll tell you that right now. Don't be surprised. I'm actually going to look. I'm sure the lines are up already. This is great live radio also. I did this last night. Jeez, come on. It's called prep. Like, can somebody do show prep around here? Talking to myself, obviously, because I'm the only one who works around here. I don't even know how I could bet the series is. I guess it's technically like, yeah, East playoff series. Do they have it up? Let's look. Yeah. Oh, it's close. Whoa. Okay. So the Sixers are favored. They're minus 120, and the Knicks are minus 108. So both teams are minus. That's on FanDuel. Vegas looks at this as a very even matchup, a very even series. It kind of tells you what you need to know. And I agree with Vegas on this. This is going to be a tough series for either team. I'm excited for it for the Knicks, though. We haven't had a ton. Philly and New York is a big rivalry town. You know, obviously the Eagles and the Giants, obviously have the Mets and the Phillies. We haven't Flyers and Rangers. We haven't had a ton of great series between the Knicks and the Sixers in the playoffs. I'm excited for it. I wanted the Heat at one point during that game. I wanted the Sixers at one point during that game. That tells me that I should be confident about either team. I am. I'm confident in Jalen Brunson. I know the Knicks are going to struggle to score at times, but apparently so are the Sixers. It's not going to be an easy sweep. I'll tell you that right now. But I like the Knicks in 6. Tell me I'm wrong, and I think Embiid probably gets hurt somewhere around game 3 or 4 if he lasts that long. All right, that's it on the Knicks and the Sixers. I'm sure we'll talk a ton about that series next week, and obviously, as we talk about it on Friday, I'm going to do a preview episode, and we'll talk about tomorrow. I'll tell you why I'm doing a preview episode on Friday. So it's all calculated, it's all planned out. I'm thinking about all these things in advance. I want to quickly hit on the Knicks and the Yankees. The Knicks. We just did the Knicks. On the Yankees and the Mets. I had some beer with the game. What can I do? I'm not technically working. I'm talking sports. The New York Yankees had a great win tonight, this afternoon. The World Series is back on. That's what it is. World Series back on, baby. A huge win for the Yankees because at one point during this game, I tweeted, this team is the 2023 Padres. It was actually right after Juan Soto hit a home run to cut the lead to 4-2. The Yankees were down. They couldn't win. The only guy doing anything was Juan Soto. Was 3 for 3, had both RBIs, had the run scored on the solo home run, cut the lead to 4-2. The Yankees were down 4-1 in this game, and a team like last year's Yankees or last year's San Diego Padres would never win a game like this. And the Yankees came back. They showed heart. They showed grit. In a game they needed to win, they couldn't get swept. They couldn't lose 4 in a row. Marcus Stroman, this is what I wanted to see from Carlos Rodon. He came out and battled. He didn't have his stuff. He wasn't as sharp as Rodon was stuff-wise yesterday. And yet he battled and he lasted longer and gave up less runs. So it was an inning and a third longer. So it was only 1 run less. Still, yes, he gave you more. He gave you everything he had in the tank and kept the Yankees in it as long as he possibly could. The Yankee offense, on the other hand, couldn't do anything. Volpe struggling. More errors on the defense. Obviously, and by the way, Stroman gave up 2 runs right away in the first inning. So it was after that he pulled it together. So also something impressive. Judge continues to struggle. Volpe continues to struggle. And then they never say die. They never give up. This is a team that shows resiliency. And resilience is contagious because when Stan hits a monster home run, after Soto hits the home run in the 8th, Stanton hits a monster home run to start the 9th, and the Yankees start a rally, you know what showed me resilience? Aaron Judge, struggling. The low ball's getting called a strike all day. The strike 2 call on him was disgusting, egregiously bad call, down and in, not even close to the strike zone. Aaron Judge kind of looks back, and by the way, shout out Jose Trevino because he had obviously the game-tying hit, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. And by the way, after the Stanton home run, the energy was already back in the dugout. Like there was a confidence there. They cut it at that point to 4-3, and all of a sudden there was an energy. They're all dancing in the dugout like they tied it or something. That's a resiliency. That's an energy. That's the seriousness combined with the fun way of playing the game that we talked about with Juan Soto so much. And I don't know if I talked about it so much on this platform, but if I didn't, I will. And then Aaron Judge comes up. That pitch is off the plate. It's not even close. And they really walked Juan Soto because there was a pitch on him that wasn't close either. The 3-1 pitch wasn't close, called a strike. The same pitch in the same spot is called ball 4 on the 3-2. He walks, and then Aaron Judge, and by the way, what umpire in their right mind? I know I keep going off on these side tangents. What umpire in their right mind is calling balls or calling strikes when Soto thinks it's a ball? If Soto thinks it's a ball, it's a ball. He has a better eye than you. Any umpire in the league. That's any umpire in the league. But this guy was particularly bad. The strike 2 call on Judge is terrible, and Judge hangs in there. He's not happy about it, but he hangs in there. He's resilient. He doesn't let it affect him. He grounds the ball fair inside of third base, down the left field line, 2-run hit to take the lead. The Yankees take a 6-4 lead. it wasn't over yet because we still had a runner on in the 9th inning, the tying run at the plate with Vlad Guerrero Jr. I thought they tossed him at the beginning, and that was crazy. But a crazy great play by Anthony Volpe. Didn't take his poor struggles at the plate to the field with him. Makes a diving play, a Gold Glove play to win the game. In my opinion, as good a win the Yankees have had all year. A comeback win. I know they've had a bunch of comeback wins already this year. And I joked early in the year, they've matched the total number of comeback wins that they had all year last year. Now it might be true because at this point, I don't remember this many last year. I really don't remember this many come from behind wins. So a 6-4 win after being down 4-1 is a great win by the New York Yankees and a great job to show resiliency and show why this team in 2024, again, is different. And that's why I say World Series back on, because no matter what's going on with this team, they show that they're different. This Yankee team is different. And so with all the struggles that went on in this series, with all the struggles that went on the last 3 games prior to this, and even in this game, 4 games in a row, they erased all of it with 1 great inning, and really 1.5 if you consider the inning before that, obviously the bottom of the 8th inning where Soto hits, or the top of the 8th inning where Soto hits the home run. The Yankees erase all of it and are now headed on a high note back into their next series. So that takes us to the New York Mets. Speaking of a high note, the New York Mets complete the sweep, and they made it look easy in the process. Completing the sweep, they now won 10 of their last 13. They're 10-8, and they're still getting Kodai Senga back. They're still getting JD Martinez back. This team might actually be really good. That's what I'm going to say about the New York Mets. And not only that, again, Carlos Mendoza might actually be a really good manager. Lindor still hasn't done a ton. It feels like Pete's not fully clicking. Even Neil, who's gotten better, is not all the way back yet. They've gotten contributions up and down the lineup, a different hero every day. Harrison Bader, the big home run today. This New York Mets team might be really good, has a chance to be really good. The one thing I will say, because the vibes look awesome, they're celebrating again. The team that looked dead in Citi Field again a week and a half ago now looks alive in the dugout. They're coming out of the dugout. They're celebrating, and that's mirroring the energy of their manager, Carlos Mendoza. But something Dan O'Rourke always says, vibes are fake. The New York Yankees the last 3 days when they were losing 3 in a row, they looked like a dead team walking. Why? Because they weren't scoring. That's what happens when teams don't score. When the Mets looked like a dead team walking, it was because they weren't scoring runs. And now that they're scoring runs and having big hits, they look like they're having fun. The vibes are back. Winning equals vibes. That's it. That's all you have to remember as a sports fan. So when you see the vibes are good right now for both the Yankees and the Mets, it's because they're winning games. The vibes will be bad if they're losing games, and every team has to go through some losing streaks. But the resiliency that the Yankees showed today and the resiliency that the Mets have showed really the last 13 games now, after the way they started the season, if you want to talk about a team that's primed and prepared for the long haul, for a team that's primed and prepared to go on a long run this season, that's a team that shows this type of resiliency this early on in the season, shows the will to battle back, shows the will to fight. The New York Mets, I'm all over them right now. I'm excited for this baseball season again. I was excited for it more for the Mets than for the Yankees. I do think the Yankees were going to win 90 games. I thought the Mets were probably going to win 87. So I thought they'd be kind of similar in the same range wins-wise. But now I think they'll still be probably in the same range. But the Yankees, the ceiling has raised for both teams. I think I raised the ceiling to, who knows, anything can happen. If the Mets get into the playoffs and JT's healthy and Senga's back, and some of these pitchers who have been really good so far, whether it's Sean Maena, whether it's, I don't know, I mean, any of these guys, Butto, Severino, you're going to put a ceiling on this Mets team? I'm not. This lineup is going to rake. I keep saying that. It's going to happen. They haven't even been clicking on all cylinders yet. I still think they're going to get there. So I don't want to put a team, I don't want to put a cap. I don't want to put a lid on either one of these baseball teams right now. That's exciting. So for the Yankees, for the Mets, exciting wins today, and more exciting about what it means for the future, because these wins show you that this team is resilient, that this team can battle back. Now the Mets have the day off, and then they face the Dodgers, going out to LA, obviously starting Friday night. And the Yankees, I actually don't know the Yankees schedule. The Yankees also on Friday are hosting the Tampa Bay Rays. They're coming home, obviously, Saturday. We're honoring John Sterling. So if you enjoyed these videos, I appreciate it. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it with a friend. Until next time, appreciate all you guys. See ya.